Hey, welcome back to Her Rules Radio. This is Alex Jameson, your hostess. We are talking to Geneva Peschka today, director, creative producer, incredible documentarian. We're going to talk about a couple of her amazing projects. On the show today, we've got a juicy interview. How does a New York City-based producer and director take care of herself and her needs and her creative vessel while working on film projects for years and years? We're going to go deep into that. And I want to talk about a little post I threw up on the Instagram this weekend. So you know, Meghan Markle and her prince of a hubby decided to step back from their royal family duties and even maybe leaving the UK and going to Canada. Good for them. And so I put up this quote that has turned Meghan Markle into a verb, or even past tense, Meghan Markled, which means to Meghan Markle, to value yourself and mental health enough to up and leave a room, situation, environment in which your authentic self is not welcomed or wanted. Example, person A, where's Ryan? Person B, oh, he Meghan Markled. I think that is amazing. I loved it. I loved it so much. Can we just all be more like Meghan, right? Can we make the power move that Meghan and Prince Harry did? They set boundaries with the in-laws and basically the whole world, mainly the paparazzi, which were, whoa. I mean, the paparazzi are bad everywhere, but in England, I think they have quite a reputation. Anyway, she's making her own rules with her husband to make a life that works for them, protect their family and her sanity and their baby. Boundaries are key. Not allowing people to manipulate you or subvert your energy or your life so you can focus your time and resources on your highest good and meaningful work. I think those are pretty great. But when I posted this, wow, some people got super prickly. She deserves whatever she got. She knew what she was getting into. That people are giving her too many props. Anyway, people had some serious opinions about Meghan Markle and her husband taking steps to have boundaries and have a life that works for them. I thought that was really interesting. That women especially were so hyper-judgmental about Meghan particularly. They said nothing about Harry, at least in my comment section. Are you on Instagram? Hang out with me at Delicious Alex on Instagram. Anyway, you'll see the comments that women left. She deserves whatever she gets. She's making too big a deal out of this. I thought that was really fascinating. Those kinds of comments contribute to this culture where it is unsafe for us to stand up for what we need, to set boundaries, because we're afraid that people are going to judge us and vilify us the way that Meghan has. I'm with Meghan, and I'm going to use that verb to Meghan Markle. Where'd Alex go? I thought she was here at the party. No, she Meghan Markled. Yep, I'm going to use it. So now let's talk about stories, telling our own stories, the value, the healing, the amazing benefits of telling our own stories. And that's not easy to do. Not only do we get judged like Meghan and Harry, but there aren't as many opportunities, there aren't as many resources for everyone to have equal access to sharing and promoting our stories. But Geneva Peschka, director, producer, documentary filmmaker, is changing that. She's the co-director of Unspoken and the director-producer of a short documentary series entitled Women that I just watched. It's beautiful. We're going to put up the link so you can watch Women and Unspoken. Geneva and I talk about how important it is. She and I share this similarity. We both are so passionate about creating space and giving people the opportunity to tell their own story. It is not my place to tell your story, but how can I help you tell your story and get your story out there? It's healing for the teller and it's healing for the viewer and the listener. That's one of the reasons why I love doing Her Rules Radio. I mean, I love these conversations that I get to have. It gives me an opportunity to reach out to women like Geneva and say, oh my gosh, the work you're doing is amazing. Can we talk? And can we record it? But to have a space where all of you listeners, you come here every week, you listen to my show, and I get to share people like Geneva with you. It's such an honor. It's so, so, so important for us to listen to each other now more than ever. I think we need to do a lot more listening. We need a hefty dose of empathy, folks. And that's what this convo is all about. So listen in. Here we go. Geneva Peschka, thank you so much for being here with me on Her Rules Radio.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, and it's such an honor to be your guest.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you a little bit. We actually met at the Wing, which is a women's co-working space in New York. Well, it's not just in New York City, but that's where we met. That's where I work. That's where you work. But we started chatting as I saw you around the Wing about what you were up to. And you have been working in feature animation and the commercial and documentary production world for 10 years. Mm-hmm. And you have come out with a very cool, both a short documentary series titled Women, and you had another documentary come out, was it last year or the year before, called Unspoken. And it's just been such a thrill and such a pleasure to like, oh, what are you doing next? What's coming up? And you have these incredible projects that I really wanted to have you on and talk about not only your creative work and your process, but some other things that I think other creatively minded women want to hear about. Let's first talk about the Wing. So we met, you are the community manager there. So when I see you, you are like the Julie Cruise director on Love Boat. Like you were out talking to people. So how long have you lived in New York City? Did you grow up here?
I did not. I've lived in New York for almost 10 years. I'm originally from Canada, so born and raised in Canada. My dad's American, so that's how I got myself over to New York 10 years ago.
Got it. And what brought you to want to work at the Wing? Because it seems like you're wearing several hats right now.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I have too many hats on. Mm-hmm. But it was really interesting. 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, I was freelancing, really felt I was in the middle of making my film, the documentary Unspoken, and really felt like I needed community and was doing a lot of work from home, wearing my jogging pants all day, snacking all the time. I don't think there's anything wrong with wearing your jogging pants every day. It's a very comfortable way to live, and I think people should be comfortable. And I'm still a snacker, so I'm not condoning that at all. But I was missing human interaction, and I think I also really wanted to meet other people and be around other people that had similar, not necessarily similar ideas, but similar goals that I had. And I really wanted to help create, a big shift and change in the autism and disability community in terms of ownership of dialogue and how I could be a part in a small, way of helping to support that dialogue and it be changed. And I think the Wing came about because I was actually on Instagram and saw a couple of people posting about it, but it was when the Wing wasn't really anything yet. It was a render, and people were applying for membership, and I was like, okay, let me see what happens. And I applied for membership and found out I got in and had no idea what that meant, what sisterhood in this sense meant. I have a big community, of course, of friends and a lot of female identifying friends, but I grew up really a tomboy, gravitating towards hanging out with boys. So I don't think I really had that massive opportunity to create, wasn't in any kind of cliques or anything like that in college. I went to college part-time, wasn't in sororities. It's not really a big thing in Canada. And I really wanted to be around people that I could energetically feed off of and help me finish this film. So that's how, very long-winded response. That's how I started my journey at the Wing, was as a member. And it had such an impact on me. And I met so many people that became great friends. I met people that inspired me. And I decided as they were expanding that I wanted to be on the other side and help people have that experience. Kind of like, how could I be of service to others?
That's really important. I want to underline that you realized you wanted community to help you pursue your creative endeavors. You're a very productive, creative professional. And I'm trying to say productive instead of busy, because I'm trying to get out of that busy mindset, but instead focused and productive. Like we're going after it. We're working every day on it. So besides community, and actually, I wonder, not just, what else do you know you need to keep yourself healthy and working at your best, but what did you notice when you did join the wing and you had community? How was it helping you to fuel your creative work?
I think one of the things that was the biggest realizations in that journey was realizing I wasn't by myself. And I think as a creative, I might have isolated myself, and kind of that definitely did affect my work and how I was producing work. Being around people, and I think also like the type of work that I do, my projects, everything is collaborative. And it really just kind of heightens the importance of collaboration, whether it's energetic, right? If you're being around people and you're sharing that way, or if it's, just being around people and sharing what you're doing and them kind of pushing you along the way. It's really important to be around community in all sense. Like that for me is one of the biggest, most important things in my process is community.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the other kind of self-care examples that you know about how you need to nourish yourself, or, how do you care and feed and water yourself? And how well are you doing with that? Because as you said, you wear a lot of hats. You're kind of have this very public role at the wing. And then, as a documentary filmmaker, you do work with a team, and the team changes, and then you have to be out there like promoting your work and promoting yourself. So what do you notice about your own self-care practices?
Well, to be fully honest, the last year I've realized that it was really out of balance. And there's this narrative that I had created for myself, and I think in watching my mom raise 3 children and be a single parent, and it was like must work hard just to get by, which is something that I've really just recently started addressing, because there wasn't really a balance in my life. It was like working full time, and then outside of that, finishing Unspoken, and then also working on this 12-part documentary series. And it was a lot, and it is a lot. And to be like, not that I have any anger towards any of that at all, it also brings me a lot of joy. But what was missing was that, how am I replenishing myself? How am I giving back to myself, which is so important. And I think the last year I've really had an opportunity to step back and kind of have this honest conversation with myself and like, what brings me joy? What is it that I need? And last year I took the step of really diving deeper into, I guess, like different ways of healing myself. So I'm now a Reiki practitioner. And
oh, cool.
And the reasoning for that first was obviously I love giving. I'm a Pisces, and I love the idea of being able to, provide this to other people. But it was mainly this journey of like, how can I heal myself and continue to work on healing myself? So that was like the first step. And then learning boundaries. Like this weekend, I set aside 3 days for myself to do absolutely nothing. But within that nothing, it was journaling, meditation. I did an online breathwork course, which was beautiful. I signed up for a series of 5. Drawing. I was really big into art when I was a kid. So I just made sure that I just had like an intimate date with myself for 3 days, and cooking from scratch, like really having this opportunity to be thankful for the food that I can buy for myself, and it's nourishing me, and like taking these like quiet moments of what is it that I need? And I need time, to replenish myself in these types of ways. It's almost like, getting to know myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we do that enough.
Mm-hmm. It is. I think that is one of the scarcest resources, right? We can make more money. Can't make more time. And I wonder also, do you ever feel that pressure? And I know for myself, I sometimes have this impatience, like there's not enough time to do everything I want to do, or, what if I have this great idea, what if somebody else does it first? I need to like get my stuff out there. And, I am learning as I reach middle age that that's not necessarily the healthiest relationship with time, that pressure. How do you handle that?
These are some really really great questions. I'm still working through it. And I don't feel like I have outside pressure, but of course that internal pressure, and also recognizing what serves me and what doesn't are some of those like internal dialogues helping me accomplish things that at moments I felt that I could not ever do. Yes. But I'm also learning to be more gentle with myself. And also like this year, one of the words for this year for myself is patience. And what does that look like? If you're working on a project, like the Women series, for example, it started over 3 years ago. And probably like a year after it started. And it was hard. Like it could have come out earlier, but I was working full time, finishing Unspoken, and also didn't have the resources for it to come out sooner. But I was seeing other projects coming out that were very similar. And I had conversation. I was kind of getting at some point, kind of like, oh no, like there's all these other projects, but it's like, this is beautiful that they just see all these other projects. We're finally having these conversations and highlighting all these different stories. And what you're doing is not going to be the same as somebody else.
Right.
Right. And that there's a real importance of there being different perspectives or, different angles in projects so that we can all learn from each other and we can all expand our lens.
Yeah.
It all has a place. Like all of our stories and projects have a place.
Yeah. That's a really important point. I'm certainly recognizing my own sneaky scarcity mindset, that part of me that's like, there's only so many ideas that I will ever come up with in this lifetime. And if I don't do them, someone else will do it. I think now I realize that's BS. Like, many, many people are going to do the same idea or put out the same kind of book. And thank goodness, Lady Gaga didn't say, oh, there's already been a Madonna, or, oh, there's already been love songs, I shouldn't write a love song. Like, right? We need all of them. We need all the love songs.
Exactly.
We need all of the short documentary series about women. Speaking of, let's talk about women. You created this beautiful short documentary series. And it's really gorgeous. And I want everybody who's listening to go watch it. But you highlight a really diverse group of women who share these. I mean, it's like being the fly on the wall, listening to women's thoughts and experiences on what their life and experience, who they are and what's important to them. What inspired you to do this?
I'm always thinking of, I think like I have a pretty eclectic background. I'm mixed. My mom's German, my dad's American, of African and Native descent. And, I could be categorized, if you would, in different boxes. And I've always been very sensitive to people's experiences, being someone who's experienced a lot and feels a lot. And I think one of the things that I do feel my purpose is to awaken people and help share other people's experiences, but authentically through their own voice. And with the Women series, what was really important to me is that I wasn't seeing enough people's stories. Of course, women really diversified on TV or in documentaries or in series and that type of thing. There was a lot of, and of course they're phenomenal. There's a lot of series out there celebrating first this and the first that, and they're absolutely great. And again, this is like something that's important for that. Like, don't stop doing what you're doing because something else has come out similarly. What I felt was like, I want the phenomenal, extraordinary, everyday woman to be celebrated and to be seen, because what we're doing and what they're doing deserves celebration. And I don't think we should have to feel like we have to get to a certain level and like attain a certain thing to be recognized and celebrated. We should be celebrated every day. And in that, it was an opportunity for me to take 12 different people that were all very different and share their stories and hopefully expand the viewer's lens by sharing these experiences and who they are, so that you can now also see that nothing is what we think it is. Take a few minutes and get to know somebody who's quite different than you and see how much we really have in common, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It is, unless you're actively seeking it out. And things have definitely, TV has changed so drastically in the last 10 years. The different kinds of stories that are there, different movies that are out, different audiences, different actors, and it's still made mostly by white dudes. We see it every year at the Oscars. Still, I think it was all white dudes nominated for Best Director this year. Again, nothing against white dudes in particular. I'm married to one. I'm raising one. And why, from your perspective, was it so important to showcase, again, this diverse group of women? And I love the short format, too. It left me so hungry for more.
Yes.
I was like, I want to see their whole life. I want to see their whole day. Yeah. So take us more into your process about the form and structure for these interviews.
Well, one thing I want to highlight is that this series could never have been made without the support of a community. And that kind of like circles back to community and the importance of it, and meeting people along my journey who believed in me and trusted me and also collaborated and helped make this a reality. Like everybody that was on that came on board that series was female identifying to help with the shooting of it. And it was fully collaborative. So I think what's important for me is the importance of showcasing the collaboration and how that actually changes dialogue. And that was like collaboration from behind the camera and in front of the camera. Every single person was asked the same 12 questions, but it was opened up at the end. And this is for me very, very, very important. And again, it's all energetic, is that if you're asking somebody questions and you don't give them the opportunity to share at the end, there's not as much of an energetic flow. So at the end of every interview, I would ask if there was anything that they wanted to share, anything that I didn't ask, and so on. And that was such a beautiful experience. And I think also making sure that who I'm interviewing has a part in really molding and sharing their voice, and the importance of that, and how that type of setting that you're creating creates trust, and how that comes across in the interview, and then how, of course, that comes across in the final project, right? So it's important for us to collaborate. People's stories are being told authentically because it changes narratives. We live in a society that has a lot of the narratives that are out there are very kind of one-sided and have been created by people of power. But now we have this beautiful opportunity of exploration and creating more platforms and more people to be seen and heard, and changing narratives and changing how we see each other.
Yeah.
So we have to collaborate. It's so important in every aspect of life, whether it's on set, whether it's in community, whether it's families, whether it's on your block or whatever it is. It changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Now, the name of the series is Women, but it's WOMXN. Tell us why you use that spelling, because I actually use that spelling in a lot of my writing. And I would love to hear from you why you chose that.
It was chosen because it's everything. I think, for me and the team, everything is inclusive, and it's important that everybody is seen and heard. And we wanted that to be very obvious, in the sense of it. This is an inclusive project, and I couldn't imagine doing it any other way, right? It's as it will in the future progress and expand. It's just, for me, it's just, I think in life in general, everything should be inclusive. Yeah.
Yeah. And by inclusive, I know that there are some political connotations to using X in the word woman. I just want to kind of literally spell it out for the listeners what we mean by inclusive when we use that X. Because I've gotten a little bit of heat from some of my readers when I explained why I was using it, that some women didn't feel included. And there are people who identify as women who were maybe not born biologically as women who now use the X to, feel integrated in their own words, and these little things matter to them. So I'm curious if you had any other reasons or expectations for that.
No, I think it really is about inclusion. And I think there are, as we're moving into a society of talking more about inclusion, I think we're also sometimes very set in our ways, and things that are coming up and looking at things differently take some time for some people to adjust to. And that's fine, right? But I think leading by example of inclusion is very important, and showing people and having them come on board and understanding is how we are going to evolve as a society, like right. Bringing them on board, and of course there might be pushback and some people might not understand, but it's kind of like, I would hope that you're not focusing on the title more than you're focusing on the stories, like experience the stories, like that's the beauty. It doesn't matter what age, religion, what your political beliefs are, anything like that. Like that's like let's just take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate each other. Celebrate yourself.
Now, one of the other things I love about what you've done with the series Women is that it's available for people to watch online on this service that I had never heard of before. And I am a huge library fan, and I frequent the Brooklyn Library like almost weekly. And it's up on this service called Canopy, which I hadn't heard of.
So that's actually Unspoken.
Oh, which is perfect, because that's where we're going next anyway.
but the women's series is available on Vimeo.
Oh, great. Okay.
For people to watch, and I'm encouraging people to screen it on their own and share it with friends and family. However you identify, it's really about celebrating each other. And then I created a toolkit for very easy questions to ask each other in a very respectful way, which will help you build further connection and whether it's with a parent, a friend, a coworker, whatever it might be. But like the series is meant for us to connect and then also to celebrate ourselves and each other. Nice. So yeah, I hope people will take a moment to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, we'll definitely put the link to the Vimeo series there. So let's talk about Unspoken, which was the first project you were working on when we first met. And this was a short doc that you made with a teen, Emma, a teen with autism. Tell us about this project.
This is like my baby. So the film was actually made with Emma and then also my really good friend, Julia Niao. We all co-directed it. I co-directed and produced. Julia co-directed and did most of the cinematography. And this is a really personal project for me. When I moved to New York almost 10 years ago, the day after I moved here, I started babysitting Emma. So I've known her since she was 8 years old and have a very, very close relationship with her and her family. Her family became like my New York family. And knowing her and getting to know her, I got to see a different part of the world and how people are treated, the disability community and the autism community. And it was really eye-opening, I think, to be in public with her. And she's the most joyous, happiest human I have ever met. And to see how some people casted judgment was mind-boggling, and openly doing it and also feeling that it was acceptable, which is interesting. Like one of the big things for me that I like to share and point out is that disability community is one that people still feel they have the right to speak or communicate on their behalf. no matter what community you come from, it's been taught to you that that is okay. And it's so incredibly, unbelievably not okay that, I was really passionate about like her communication evolution. At the time when I met her, she was 8. She of course, she has speech, and it's non-fluent. And I think when I met her, it was probably maybe the level of a 2 or 3-year-old. And at the age of 11, her parents were working with somebody who does RPM, rapid prompt method. And it was basically learning how to spell on a stencil board. And you start off with I think answering questions with why and then if you can, moving to spelling full words and sentences. And her parents brought her there and it worked. And they had learned that Emma had taught herself how to read and write, but couldn't verbally communicate it. And that she was this poetic genius. And this is at 11 years old. And when this happened, Emma decided to start advocating across North America for human rights and self-advocacy because she didn't want any other child to be dismissed the way that she had been dismissed. And being removed from this situation, not situation, but this, what was happening, how this was evolving, but also close to the family, I knew that I wanted to help bring the story to life. And I asked her if she wanted to make a documentary. And I think one of the most important things is that I really wanted her to tell her story, and I wanted her to co-direct it. And I didn't want there to be any outside voices, so no interviews with parents, doctors, etc., which is usually widely how documentaries, of course, are made. But I think what I wanted with Unspoken was to have people really see that none of that mattered, and that, and it was kind of like outside noise, and how to really just take 26 minutes to focus it on who she is and how incredible she is, and that she doesn't need to be cured and no one needs to be cured. So she co-directed the film, and then I also gave her final sign off, and we are just so happy with the way it's come together.
So both Unspoken and Women are really about letting people tell their own story.
Yeah.
And it's such an incredibly validating and empowering opportunity. I wonder, when did this passion become so clear for you? Is this something from childhood that did you gravitate to the memoirs, or did you, get a chance to tell your story in some way and you thought, I want to do this for other people?
I think as a child, I was I'm very empathetic, and I kind of see a lot. And my mom has always been an activist, and I grew up seeing her and experiencing her strength in speaking up and speaking out. I feel really privileged that I had that opportunity to be around that. And it never occurred to me, I think when I was younger, that I needed to share my voice. It was always, how can I use my voice to share other people's voices? Mm-hmm. Or how can I be a vessel? And it's interesting, I was talking to someone a while ago, and we were talking about the fact that I love amplifying other people's voices. And they were saying, is there something within you that is it almost therapeutic to you? And this is a way of you sharing your voice. And I really think it is. I think doing this helps me. I'm definitely a little more of a shy person. I told you before we got on the interview that I get nervous and I get shy. But I think in helping other people get seen, this helps me also be seen, but in the sense of being a woman, and a woman from different minority groups. It all comes back to that. And yeah, I just really think that everyone should have the opportunity to be seen and heard. It, as I said earlier, it literally changes everything. It changes the way we look at each other. It reminds us that we are all of the same value.
Mm-hmm. What did you hear from Emma and from the women in Women once they saw themselves?
I think the joy of seeing Emma really step into her power. It's always there. It has always been there, but it was an additional platform for her to share her truth. You know, she doesn't want to be an activist or anything like that anymore. She's just like, I just want to be a teenager. And she's left the world with this beautiful 26-minute film, which is now helping to shift people's perceptions, which is such a beautiful gift. But she put herself out so that we can learn. And that was like something that she shared with me. And I think for me, it was just like, what I learned from that is how beautiful and important it is to understand that it's not about you, and how rewarding it is to just be of service and to listen, really to listen. Yeah. And you know, with action, then of course, help create change hand in hand with that individual. And the same with the women's series. The women's series was just, you know, also it was like 3 years in the making. It was on the back burner for a while. Because again, like I said, it was a community that helped build it, and people came on board free to make it. And I'm beyond grateful that happened. And I think when it finally was coming out, I think of course they were really excited that it was finally, their stories were finally being shared. But sharing it and doing screenings with them and seeing how it impacted them and how their stories were impacting other people was phenomenal. When we did the first screening for the women's series, and a great deal of the women highlighted in it were at the screening. And then there was also other people that had been a part of it and friends of the talent in that. And we did, of course, the workshop. And one of the questions in the workshop is like, who did you identify with most and why? And that was so phenomenal, because like, it didn't matter what walk of life you came from. If you're a man or woman or non-identifying, it's like you could find how you identified with somebody in that series. Yeah. And to see that, how that affected the women that were in it, it was just like this, it was beautiful. Like, I think how easy it was to celebrate 12 people. It did take 3 years, you know, and Emma was 5 years. Yeah. But you think of the impact of that and how it is celebrating them, but also hopefully sharing these stories. Other people will see themselves in it and will take a moment to celebrate themselves.
Yeah. Man, I have so much respect for any filmmaker, but documentarians are really near and dear to my heart, because I've been behind the scenes and I know the amount of work and the schlepping, the amount of stuff you have to carry around to make a shoot happen, and the amount of hands and hearts and people that goes into even what looks like on the screen a small, simple project is never small and simple. The hours and days and weeks of editing, etc. So I'm curious if you have any words of wisdom or advice for a woman who may be listening now, who has a story she's thought about making a short film or writing her story. What do you have to share with her about that?
Just start. I think, you know, obviously having a plan is great because it's a guide, but having a vision of where you want it to be, I think, is also just as powerful. And feeling that, seeing that and feeling that. Ask people along the way. If you're nervous about how to start and you don't know how and you've never done it before, ask people. Ask friends of friends, reach out to, you know, your favorite filmmaker. You never know who is going to respond. Of course, they might not respond, but there are people that want to help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. People want to be of service. People want to give advice, and be gentle with yourself. Take your time, you know, finish, you know, a due date is great, but also if it's a little much for yourself, like, don't burn yourself out along the way. Take your time and dream big. Like, nothing is too big, and everything and anything is possible. Community is such an important thing. And I think going back to asking for help, surrounding yourself by other people in that field, you know, joining a writing group, a film group, whatever field it might be, surround yourself with like-minded people and mentors, and just do it.
Yeah.
No matter what the outcome is, knowing that you completed that is one of the most beautiful feelings.
Yeah, it really is. That's awesome. So what's next for you? What's your next project?
I have and this is like, I also have to be gentle with myself. I'm not going to say too much yet, but I am expanding the women's series. So I'm not going to say like in what way, shape, or form, but that's really exciting for me because I am such a curious individual. And I think it's just so important to celebrate and highlight as many voices as possible. So I'm following that. And I have my first feature documentary that's in the early stages of development. And I'm excited and I'm also terrified of that.
Yeah, that's good to know. Exciting and terrifying can come hand in hand.
Yeah, I have no idea how it's going to be done. I just know that it's part of my journey of being of service and amplifying voices. I hope to kind of like do a soft, like start shooting in a very slow pace this summer. We'll see what happens. Again, being gentle with myself, but I'm really excited about that. And then I have, these are not all happening at the same time. I have an animated series that I created 11 years ago, almost 12 years ago. I've shopped it to most of the main networks a few years ago, but I'm going to start revisiting that and working towards how to make it happen. It was a little ahead of its time. And I think now might be a good time for it. And it's a strong, young, brown female character. So very much kind of like me when I was a young girl, or who I wish I could have been in the life I could have had. So yeah, so hoping I can get something going with that.
Nice. I love that. I really want to highlight what you just said. I made this thing. It might have been ahead. I'm revisiting it. I'm going, like, there's still value there. Maybe now is the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's so valuable. Like, just because something didn't work the first time doesn't mean the idea or what you made wasn't valuable. You just didn't find the right people, or you needed to like hit them up on a Wednesday instead of last Friday or something, like we just never know. You don't give up on those
The
ideas.
world wasn't ready. Yeah. And you keep going until it is, and you figure out, and maybe this is something that you can try to make happen on your own, and you don't need other people to give you the go ahead.
So good. Geneva Peschka, thank you so much for being here. Your films are beautiful. They're so enlivening and touching. And we're going to put the links in the show notes over on herrulesradio.com so people can go watch your projects. And where's a good place for people to follow you on the social medias?
I'm not too active. I should try to get more active. But my Instagram is just Geneva, but it's spelled a little differently. So it's at Geneva. And then my website, of course, I think you'll be sharing that as well.
Yes.
Just my name, and then Facebook, but I'm not on Twitter or anything like that.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah. It's a black hole.
There's just so much, too distracting. So you can find me on Instagram, and I would be honored if you took a moment to check out some of my work. And feel free to share it.
We'll share it along with this interview. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Her Rules Radio. Come on over and hang out with me at Delicious Alex on Instagram. And if you like the show, share it. Just click it, share it, copy it, give it to a friend. And if you haven't yet, a review on iTunes would be super helpful. So hop on over to iTunes in your app, leave a review, just, a few words about why you like the show. It really helps new listeners find us. So appreciate you. Have a beautiful week. Have a beautiful day. Take good care of you. We'll be back next week. Mwah!